how to create clients and not feel icky about it. How to take that icky feeling out of your sales process as a coach. I got 3 steps for you. 3 underlying basic principles that if you build your coaching business on these, you're never going to feel bad, guilty, apologetic, ashamed for doing sales ever again. Ready? Step 1, tell the truth. So I remember being on my honeymoon in Playa del Carmen in Mexico. And my then husband and I were staying at this lovely resort, and we had seen around, I was young, I was very young. I had heard of something called timeshares, but I wasn't quite sure what that was. But anyway, I had seen around the hotel, the resort throughout that time, stuff about the timeshare, and they're like doing presentations somewhere. And if we went for a timeshare presentation, took some time out of it, they'd give us some coupons for whatever free thing to then go play with the dolphins, or I forget what it was that we'd get if we sat in on the timeshare presentation. And my then husband was an economist, so he was very good on things to do with money and taxes and inflation and all that stuff. He understood all that stuff in a way that I did not. I was a biology person. So we thought, well, yeah, cool, dolphins, let's see what this timeshare is, like an hour. Let's go see what this presentation thing is. And we went in and we were paired up with somebody, a representative, and we sat at a table, and we'd had this amazing week. So we were already like high and happy and just totally stoked about this place. So we're already in the sense of like, oh, there's value here because this is super cool. I'd love to come back here. And in the room, there are all these tables with people talking to the representatives, doing et cetera. And every now and then there'd be like this little mini party as someone brought out a bottle of champagne and would pop it, and everyone would be like, woo, celebration, because somebody signed the paper and got a timeshare, and then they'd pop champagne and it was like a party, and it was like, wow. So that's even more, in a way, kind of creating this environment where you want to be part of that and like, ooh, cool thing. And this presentation this guy started, and it started okay. And we were totally on board, and he asked these questions and we were like, yes, totally agree about this and totally agree about that. He was doing really classic NLP kind of yes sets, which I didn't know what those were at the time. So he was doing these yes sets, which really have you, the person, asking questions that the person would naturally say yes to, so that then when you ask the question about them buying the thing, they're just more inclined to keep going with that momentum and say yes. I didn't realize that, but it felt good. It's like, yeah, totally, whatever. And the champagne bottles are going off, and we'd had just this glowing time. And then he started to do, then it started to kind of feel more intense. Like there was some kind of pressure and tension. And he started doing scarcity stuff, like fear of losing out stuff. Like if we don't do it now, the prices will change or stuff like that. And then he started doing this thing with numbers, and he started writing numbers on this pad of paper for us to see the value of what it was to get this timeshare. And as he was doing it's like worth this now, and it's going to be worth this in like 90 years, because it was like a 90-year contract and taxes, this and that. And my then husband was like, hold on a minute. This math that you're doing, like it looks on paper that basically we're going to be millionaires or something in a year, when actually it's totally wrong. You're not accounting for this, and this is actually backwards. Like it was totally lying. They were lying, just false numbers. On paper that would have, had he not been there, would have just looked like I would be an idiot not to get this timeshare. It was basically free money in the way that they were selling it. So It was like, we got to get out of here. And this, as soon as we kind of got up to leave, the guy's energy changed, and he was like almost upset at us, like wasting his time. And it was a nasty scene. And we got out of there. And that was like my first experience of sales in a way where it's like, I can't ever be involved in anything like that, both from the receiving end or doing end, ever, ever. That was just a con, basically. And it's stuck in there. And I think everyone, all of us, right? We get the robocalls on our phones. Like, there's a lot of manipulation in sales, and we don't want to be that person. And the good news is you don't ever have to be that person. Just tell the truth. So if you develop your enrollment sales pipeline, if you have it, on a principle of telling the truth the whole time, demonstrating the truth the whole time, you're good. You're good. That by the time the proposal comes with your rates, it just feels like they're saying, wow, this is amazing. How do I work with you? And then you say, oh, cool. Here are the 3 options of how people can work with me. These are my rates. And it's an easy, obvious, wow, I think I'd like that one. That's it. And the reason that you can do that just so easily and naturally and organically without ever having to manipulate anyone or convince them that once they give you money, then you're going to do some magic crazy thing in your coaching once your coaching starts that's going to help them achieve whatever the result is that they're looking for, is by actually helping them achieve the result that they're looking for before you ever propose anything to them at all. So that you don't even need to tell them, much less convince them that you're going to help them do that. You can just help them do that. And they can experience getting on the road to doing that. They can experience themselves doing it for real now before they ever paid you. That they just naturally ask you what your rates are, and then you tell them what your rates are, and then they go, okay, yes, or okay, no, or whatever they say. And then great, you're never using force, pressure, shame, scarcity, any of that manipulation. It just doesn't exist. It's an honest, aligned, very open booked way of creating clients that ultimately demonstrates so much value up front before you ever propose, because they're experiencing it in the real world for themselves, that as we build our boutique coaching business with high rates, it makes all the sense in the world why they would invest the price of a car in working with you, because you didn't have to convince them. They already know. Okay. So as you do everything in your sales process, tell the truth. For example, you meet someone at a cocktail party. You meet someone at the Rotary Club. You meet someone at your kid's school. You're talking to someone at the cafe. You're having a really cool PM conversation with somebody in a Facebook group about something you really are interested in, or etc. And you start helping this person out, or you go to a meetup, or you're a speaker on stage, or whatever the setup is for you, where you're meeting people who are potential clients. And you feel like, wow, this person, one, I can really help them. Truly, I really believe there's something here where there's like a spark in our conversation. This is good. And we can go a lot deeper. Why don't I invite them to spend some actual quality, deep coaching time with me to really help them even more? And if there's a there, either they will share the news with their friends and word spreads about you and your business, or maybe they'd be interested in working with you. Well, you can invite them into that session. And how do you do that without feeling weird, right? It's like, oh, here's where I want something from them. That's what all the new coaches say to me. I feel bad because then I feel like I want something from them. It's like, well, you want to help them, right? And you genuinely want to help them. And potentially, if they want to give you money to do it for a long time, that's great. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. No guilt. And you're going to be helping them so much anyway there's no issue there. You're just telling the truth. So tell the truth. I'm building my practice by word of mouth and referral. Every week I have 3 spots on my calendar available for people in my community who I'm having great conversations with, or that are referred to me, or that are interesting in whatever way, where I can really, truly, deeply serve them. And that way they know about my business and what they do, what I do. I could really help them. They might become really great referral partners. And if you meet somebody in the world that could use that kind of help, you know now, you've experienced what it is that I do. If you're interested in more, you can ask me. Maybe we'll talk about it, maybe not, depending on what happens in the session. But this is not, and tell them completely. Communicate completely. That's step 2. Communicate completely. Don't leave this out. This is not a sales call, right? This is not a discovery call. I'm waiving my fee. You're telling the truth. I'm waiving my fee. This is not a sales call. It's a deep coaching call. And you're sharing with them what you're getting out of it. So they're not waiting for the other shoe to drop, where they're like, they've all been in timeshare sales. They know, right? So they know what you're getting out of it. So they're like, oh, okay, they can relax. Would you like one of these sessions? Because you're so close to me, because I trust Andrew who refers you to me, because I love this conversation we've been having, but I can tell that we can go deeper and we really can't do it by the pool right here. Why? Would you like to have one of these sessions? That's it. You just told the truth. However that happens for you, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more natural the words become. It's not a script that you learned. It's really what's going on in the moment. You can stay relaxed and at ease and unapologetic because you're not doing anything manipulative or wrong. You're inviting them into an experience of your work. And then as you do great work with them in that session, maybe you give them homework, maybe you have a second session with them, and then now they really know, they've really experienced this thing, that it may be appropriate for you at the end to say, this has been amazing. Again, telling the truth. I'd love to be part of your team to help support you in creating this. Would you like to know what that looks like? Just keep telling the truth. Totally okay if you don't want to. Also give them that truth. It's totally okay. Take them off the hook, right? By then, if it's a really great fit and you really did help them, they know you're a professional coach. I'd say 8 out of 10 times, and I've been doing this for over a decade now, 8 out of 10 times when it's a really good fit and you really did help them, they will get curious and ask, okay, so how does this work? Right? That's what they're going to say. Can you tell me a little bit about how this can be and la 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 la? And then you just tell them your rates. No manipulation. And then yes or no. The whole way, you're helping, you're serving, you're being honest. Tell the truth. And they can feel it. They will feel it. Tell the truth. Communicate completely. This is not a sales call. We might talk about that if you bring it up, but this is not what this is about. It's a deep coaching session. And have fun. That's step number 3. So if you're not having fun, however it is that you created your enrollment process, sort of the business systems piece of your coaching business, we all know the coaching is fun, but the other part that you're doing, the other 50% of the time, if it's not fun for you, it's gonna feel like pulling teeth. It's gonna feel like you need to motivate yourself continuously to do. It's gonna feel painful. It'll be a lot easier to procrastinate because you have to be a self-starter as an entrepreneur, and you're gonna get results a lot slower. So how do we make this fun so our life shines while we're building our business and we like building our business? One of the ways is by creating the business part of the business be as much about coaching as possible. So what I love about being a coach is the helping people, the connecting people, the being in those moments with someone when like the light shines in their eyes, or when they're finally able to relax and feel something and cry and just not have to fight themselves about X or Y or Z for the first time. Like, you could feel the movement in that person's soul. That's what I love to do. Well, isn't it cool that the sales part of the work can be that? It's just creating opportunities for people to experience that with you. They're not paying you. You're genuinely helping them for free. And when it's a good fit, they'll ask you, and then you say, oh, here's the menu. Isn't that amazing? Also, the part where you're in the world making contact with people in order to create opportunities to invite them into your space to make the magic happen, that can be fun too. So one of the ways that's really fun for me to do this is through video, which is you're watching right now. I really like making videos. I had a period a bunch of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, where I made a lot of videos. I really like holding space and connecting with you guys. I really love sharing. I really love teaching. I really love knowing through comments, and leave the comments down below what you are learning, what questions you have. I really love to be genuinely helpful. And for me, this is actually not that hard. This is a little bit hard, but not really that hard. There are other things that are harder for me, like blogs. Writing, for example, is a little bit more, it's hard for me to focus in a certain kind of way. So the easiest, most fun way to help my people is this, or running my Facebook group, Coaches Light the Grid. I love doing that. It's such a fun way to nurture and build and help my community, right? Before they've ever become potential clients, there's a way in the world that I'm connecting with who my clients are that just lights me up. I have one client who was an apprentice with me last year who just loved networking, just loved it. I mean, I'd say most coaches don't. Most coaches that I know are more introverts. He just loved it and nailed it and would go out there and he'd create all sorts of conversations and deep coaching sessions with people that he met at networking events. I have clients who create these opportunities to invite people by cooking, doing these dinner events at his house where he'd cook vegan food and he'd invite people to come over and you wouldn't be able to talk. It was like mindful dinner with no talking. It was an event. He would call it food for thought. Mindful event, no talking, while we ate the food and felt and sensed, and he guided them through this connected mindful time together. And then they'd retreat to the living room and then he'd lead this beautiful session with them. At first he thought no one would come. A couple months in, there was a wait list, like months-long wait list of people who wanted to come to his house for this experience. And he'd create it because it was fun for him. So all along the way, where you're connecting with potential clients, where you're doing the amazing coaching magic, when you're doing your actual coaching, how can you create that for yourself, your system, your perfect system, where the whole way through, you're telling the truth, you're communicating completely, you're saying all the things, don't leave anything out, be actually specific, and say the stuff, and having fun. If you do that, the business side of your coaching business will be just as rewarding, inherently fun, organically flowing as the coaching side of your coaching business. Have fun out there, coaches.